Okay, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's watch list review with Spartan Trades. So in these sessions, we talk about the overall market, some stocks for tomorrow's watch list, stocks to watch for the rest of the week, and then at the end, I open up the floor to any questions or any tickers that you guys want me to review, and we talk about those also. So this chart here, this is /ES. Okay, I'm on the daily chart time frame. This is the future that SPY follows. So it gives us insights into the overall market, and this is primarily what I use for my analysis when looking at the overall market. So for the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about this pullback occurring, right? And we finally got it just before a long weekend. Is that a coincidence? Maybe, but for those of you that are new to trading, a pullback is always something to be aware of prior to an extended weekend happening. So I've seen it happen more than once, and usually you'll see something like this occur around Christmas time, but it's just another thing to keep in mind if you're new to the markets. Extended weekends could mean a potential sell-off just before. Not always, but again, it's just something to add to your arsenal. So are we bullish from here or are we bearish on the market? At the moment, I remain bullish. The market's kind of been due for a pullback. You see this RSI right here. This was way hot, right? We're way over the 70 mark. It's just been pushing up. We've been making new highs and haven't really had a pullback until last week, right? And so I want you to think about this this move right here as if we were just looking at a regular stock. So we had old resistance here at 3,400, right? This was the levels pre-COVID, and then we had that sell-off happen, and then pushed back up, all the way back up, right, and started to consolidate under that level again. When we broke out over that mark, we haven't had a true pullback to test that mark as support. So just like a stock, when it breaks out of a major level of resistance, we wait for the pullback to occur, right? Not chasing the move up, wait for the pullback to test that old resistance line as a new support. And so that's kind of what I see occurring here as of now. Of course, anything can happen, but this is what I'm seeing at this current time. So this old resistance at 3,400, where we have this trend line drawn, for the first time has been tested as a new support. Additionally, if I were to draw let's just draw like a diagonal trend line here across the bottoms of where these dips have occurred, you can see we've kind of still maintained that same level. I'll just tighten this up a little bit more. We've kind of maintained that same trend line all the way up despite that big dip, right? And so we have two things here. We have this upward trend line being held as a support. We have this old resistance being held as a new support. And so both of those things are telling me that this is just kind of a dip rather than a crash occurring. So for that reason, we're going to be bullish this week over 3,400. That's going to be the level to watch going into tomorrow's session primarily, but also for the rest of the week. Of course, if we fall below that mark, then maybe we can start to look to short. Remember that nothing in trading is ever perfect or ever exact. So let me go to the 5-minute chart time frame. Let's just say that if we remain in this general zone right here and consolidate or bounce around, I would still be bullish, and of course, if we make a new low, then at that point I would start to probably look to short the market, right? Could we see more sell-off? Definitely, it's possible, but I don't want to have a bias interfere with your trading. So let's just stay patient, see what the trend is or will be, and then plan to catch the wave. So it's not our job to predict future market movements. We only need to identify what is occurring now and in the moment. So let's see what tomorrow brings. 3,400 is going to be the level to watch. As for the watch list for tomorrow, the first one we're going to be talking about is Tesla, TSLA. And these are in no particular order, by the way. So here's the deal with Tesla. It pushed up, right, touched 500, and had a pretty aggressive sell-off. Then we see right here, we got kind of like a doji candle forming and then a hammer candle forming at the 400 level of, well, it's not really a support, but it's a whole number. And so we know those whole numbers like to act as natural areas of support and resistance in the market. So here's the deal. This looks bullish to me on the daily chart time frame because we have a doji, we have a 400 level support hold, the whole number. We have a hammer candle forming at the bottom of a downtrend. This is likely signaling a reversal. So I would be looking to play this long. However, if we go to the 5-minute chart time frame, look at this sell-off after hours. All right, so we need to keep an eye on that 430 overhead. That's going to be your clear level of support and resistance. So here it was previously a support, minor support, resistance here, and resistance here, resistance here. So 430 is going to be your resistance point overhead. 400 is going to be the level to watch, but I think we're looking for a short probably below 380. So I'm going to go back to the daily chart time frame. Let's draw a mark right here at 380 and then identify where's the next support below. Some minor support here at or around 370, maybe some minor support here at 360, but I don't see any major support to the bottom side until about 340, right? And that's going to be basing that off of, this is going to be old resistance, and we would be looking for that old resistance to be tested as a new support. So what I'm getting at here is that a failure to hold the 380 or 370 level going into tomorrow, right? So if it fails to hold this mark, or if it opens up lower and fails to hold 370 as a support, this has room to potentially come all the way down to the 340 mark. All right, so let's plan to look at this trade, especially if the market's red. We're going to be looking to take this short below those 2 price points. On the flip side, I don't know that I would want to take this long unless it opens up closer to the 430 price point. Tesla does this thing where it likes to break over these whole numbers and push up to like the $5 or $10 mark and then reverse and come right back down, right? So it looks like it will continue up and break 400 and hold and be bullish just to see it come back down. So for me, 430 is the level to watch top side, 380 is the level to watch to the bottom side. If it opens up below 380, 370 is the mark to look at. The second one for the watch list tomorrow is going to be Roku. That's R-O-K-U. And I have to go back to the weekly chart time frame to show you what I'm looking at here. So this was just getting some momentum, breaking out into the into all-time highs here prior to the recent sell-off. So we're going to draw a resistance trend line here right at the 170 mark. We're basing that off of this previous high, this resistance here, resistance, resistance, and then, you know, we can pretty much consider that still a valid level of resistance despite this close over, because this next weekly candle closed below, right? So we've only had one weekly candle close over the 170 mark. So 170 is going to be our mark top side that we're looking at. On the daily chart time frame, you see this pulled back to the 150 mark. That's going to kind of be your old level of support and resistance where it did a lot of consolidating. That 150 mark is also a whole number and happens to be where the 50 EMA is at on this time frame. Now your support where the price actually closed at is going to be right at 160. All right, so potential bounce here is what I'm looking at. Because it had pressed up into these new highs prior to the market selling off. If the market is green tomorrow, I think that this is a likely candidate for a bounce. It bounced off the 150 mark already, closed above this old resistance point here. Well, closed right at that old resistance point here. We're going to move into the 5-minute chart time frame, and let me delete these trend lines. If we use the downward trend line technique, the idea here is that if we get a break over this downward trend line, we may see a trend reversal, right? And so we know 170 is our mark. That's going to likely be a resistance. Thus, over 162 or over 164, I would feel comfortable playing this long up to 170. That's going to be a break over the trend line. If the market's green, right, if we have market backing, that'll be a break over the trend line. We have plenty of room here, top side, to make a decent profit off of. 170 is going to be the price target one. I don't know if I would trade it any more past that, maybe 174, 175. But if it gets up to that price point, I would expect that to be some type of resistance there. So keep that in mind. 162, 164 is going to be your mark long. To the bottom side, I probably wouldn't look to short this. I feel like there are better short setups and opportunities than looking for a setup that looks more bullish to me, right? Something that's not breaking out into all-time highs or recently broken out into all-time highs. I would place a short level below 150, and that's going to be extended down here on purpose, because if it does fail to break out and continue to make new highs or reverse the trend here, there's just too many minor levels of support below for me to want to short this. It could have support here at 156, could have support here at 155. And then again at 152, 150, right? So rather than dealing with all that, I would just wait for that confirmation, the break below 150. I'd be looking to short, but primarily looking at this as a long idea. ZM is going to be the third one on the main watch list for tomorrow. So I already have this gap highlighted here on the daily chart time frame. So if you don't know what a gap is, you see the disconnect in price. That was from an earnings pop. And so what tickers like to do when they enter the gap area is attempt to fill the gap all the way down, right? And so understanding that this still has room to fill the gap, what is this, down to about 325, let's just say 330 from, let me move to the 5-minute chart time frame. Okay, that's close enough to, I wouldn't even count this bottom data here at 347. Okay, so 350. I'm looking to short this probably below 350 for the continuation gap fill, down to about this mark here. So 330, maybe even 340 would be plenty enough to take profits on. That's only going to be if this continues down, right? So it needs to make a new low. It's got to break below this 350 mark, maybe even below 347, and have that momentum coming down. This is a great short opportunity, I feel, if the market fails to hold 3,400. That's going to be key, right? Market direction is going to be key going into tomorrow. All right. For a long, I don't think I would look to play this long, but if I were, I would use that same method that we used with Roku just now, right? Drawing a downward trend line across the tops of these candles here, and then looking for the break over, maybe 380 or 390. But understand 400, I have an alert set here. 400 is going to likely be a level of resistance. It's just a whole number. It's also, you see this gap, it's also the top side of this gap area. So if you're playing it long over 380 or 390, keep an eye out on 400. That's going to likely be your first level of resistance, but primarily looking for a short below the 350 mark. WKHS Workhorse is going to be the fourth one on the main watch list for tomorrow. This is probably one of my favorite setups, especially if the market's green. I don't even think the market needs to be green for this to run. This is presenting a really decent opportunity here. So here's your bull pennant pattern, right? And it's broken out over top of the bull pennant. Actually, I need to clean that up a little bit so you can see this. All right, so here's your resistance, broken out top side, and now it's pulled back, and what's it doing? Kind of treating this resistance line as a support. Of course, that can be subjective, so let's just draw horizontal lines and map out what's really the resistance. 21 is going to be your resistance point overhead. So yes, all-time highs are up here at or around 23, but there's very little price action between this 21 mark and 23. So what I'm looking for is a potential move over 21 up to 23, right, to test these all-time highs. Yeah, it's a cheap stock, it's a cheap ticker, but the average true range for this, it's known to make these pretty decent moves. So we're looking at, a 16% run right there. Let me back it up. We had a 9% move there, another 11% run there, another 15% run there. So it's totally possible that this breaks over 21 and runs to 23. It's also possible to play this long over 20 up to 21 and take enough profits there. Let's see the profit margin. Yeah, you're looking at about 5% or so from 20 up to 21. But it's going to depend on where this opens up at. So an open below 20, and we can look to take it long over 20 up to 21, and then reevaluate the position there, right? So if it breaks over 21 at that point, we would be looking for maybe a dip entry to test this as a support, and then the move up to possibly 22, maybe 23. If it opens up over 20 but below 21, 21 becomes our new trigger. As for a short, let me back this up to the 15-minute chart. Okay, so here's your clear line of support. That's going to be at 17. Waiting for this to come all the way down from where it's at now, 20 to 17, to short below 17. We're missing the play. So for that reason, I'm primarily looking at this as a long play. I'm not interested in shorting. If I were, I'm looking to short it at the 21 mark, right? We know that's resistance. So if it pushes up to this price point, fails to break over and rejects, then we look to short off of 21 for the move back down. I think this presents a great setup long though, especially if we can get market backing, that'd be great too. So I want to mention something here. Does anybody see how I just built that watch list? Right? Do we know if the market is going to be moving up tomorrow? Is it going to be moving down tomorrow? Is it going to be flat tomorrow? No, we don't. We don't know. So what did I do? I created a watch list with two tickers that present a great short opportunity if the market's red. That's going to be Tesla and ZM. And then I put on here two tickers that present a great long opportunity if the market's green, right? And so if we get a directional day tomorrow, either up or down, I have a planned play in mind despite the direction. And that's going to be how you prepare for success. So you've got to always be ready for either way, right? Be ready for either direction. That's it. That's all that I have for the main watch list tickers. We're going to go over some side charts, so hang tight. But a quick review. Tesla is going to be the make or break play at 400 or 380. It's going to depend on the opening price point. Roku is a possible bounce. It's trading at the old level of resistance, so we're looking for that downward trend line break and a green market and a follow through on that reversal. ZM is going to be a gap fill play. It's a short continuation. We're watching for the 350 level to break, and WKHS looking for this 21 level of resistance to break and a possible all-time high test. So let's talk about some side charts while I'm doing that. Feel free to type up anything here in the chat section that you want me to review. And all that I ask is that you format the review tickers like the watch list. So include some levels that you're watching and why it may have potential, or why you think it may have potential. Boeing, BA, is the first one for the side chart watch. We've talked about this one last week. You may remember the analysis here. So majority of the price action is occurring between this 170 and 180 mark. So we have a pretty tight range being built here. Set straddle alerts to either side. So a break of 180, and we're looking to play this long. Maybe a break of 170, and we can look to take this short. I'm going to set another alert here at 164. That's going to be the low, below the low of this wick, right? And so that's just going to give me like 170 is going to be the alert to put it on radar, and then 164 is going to be the alert that it's making a new low. So it's kind of like that extra confirmation alert. But yeah, this is the range here. It's holding 170 now as a support, so we'll see if it actually can bounce here and push up to test 180. This could potentially make the main chart watch list depending on where it opens. So if it opens up pretty close to this 174 mark, I may put it on the main watch list, and we'll just do what we did the other day with it, right? Look for that move up to 180. Starbucks, SBUX. So gonna go back to the weekly chart time frame here. Here's your level of resistance at or around 90, right? I've kind of already highlighted where it had some issues breaking that level in the past. And we're trading just below this price point now. What I like about this ticker though is despite the recent sell-off, this is kind of holding up pretty well. And it's actually been due for a pullback also, right? So it kind of pushed up close, right? It hit 89, it's close enough, and then pulled back here. So a hold at 85 is bullish, and I would be looking for a test or break of 90. So set an alert at 90, and this has potential over 90 to run to probably 95 and then test 100 in the upcoming weeks here. VIX, if the market is red, right? Here's your downward trend line. This is going to be your old level of resistance. This is your new level of support. Here's your breakout over this downward trend line. So we're going to go to the daily chart. And since it's broken out, has pulled back. If it crosses 35 and the market's red, I'm probably going to look to play this long. Right, being a long bias trader, I don't know that I would be looking to. I mean, you can also be looking to short SPY as well. But if this gets back over 35, I want to know about it. So I have an alert set here at 35, and then we'll see. We'll revisit this whenever that alert goes off. The last one for the side chart watch that I'm looking at is CCL. All right, so yeah, this one's kind of like forming the beginning of a cup and handle. So it's started to curl here, and now we're at a price point where there's not a ton of resistance overhead up to the 20 mark. I think over 19 is where I have my alert set. Let me move to the 5-minute. Yeah, so just over 19 is where I have my alert set to see if this can continue the run up top side. So the last time it got up to these levels, you see it kind of had like a couple of days where it gapped up and pushed up. I want to see if this has potential to test this 200 EMA from the bottom side, and that's going to be also your area of resistance here. So the mark is 24. I want to know if this breaks 19. Maybe set another alert over 20. And we'll keep an eye on this one throughout the week as well. So the side charts, again, that's Boeing 180 and 170 straddle alerts. Starbucks alerts over 90, VIX alerts over 35, and CCL alerts over 19 and 20. Earnings this week, we have two that I'm primarily watching or will be watching. That's COUP. Let me back up there. COUP reports tomorrow after hours. Is that right? And LULU. Lulu. Right, so both of those report this week. I'll be watching those. Looking to play them the day after they report, not before. So I like to keep my money safe, right? I'm not going to gamble on earnings plays. Cool. So thank you guys all for your time. Let me get into these tickers here that you've been requesting.